look at or relook at anything for the mind map, it's all here. I posted it on YouTube already, so you can go take a look at it. And so we're really going to be focusing on this part right here and what our introduction and body paragraph 1 is going to look like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this out because this is the part that we're focusing on. And we're just going to go ahead and talk about the 5-paragraph essay parts and how we go about building them. So the first thing that we're going to look at is the introductory paragraph. And if you don't have your ELA notebook out right now and you're not taking notes, please make sure that you are. Yeah, Anthony's right. Right now, the percentage is not going to make a whole lot of sense unless you've done every single independent task. And the reason is because it doesn't calculate things that do not have scores on it. And I haven't scored everything. So if I haven't scored everything and it only calculates things based on a score, the percentage is only going to show you what's calculated, what has been scored. And that's not the full picture, okay? So introduction here. One of the things that we're doing in the introduction is we're introducing, okay? What are we introducing in the introduction? What do you think we're introducing in the introduction of an essay? Who can tell me? Can anybody hear me? What's that? Oh, who said that? Me. Eric, nice. So in the introduction, you want to introduce an idea, right? You want to introduce, hey, I have an idea everybody wants to hear about, right? So you want to introduce an idea. I drew a little light bulb there because that's commonly what we think about when we think about an idea. It's like a light bulb going off. So we introduce an idea, and as Eric said, that can be the main, or should be the main idea of the essay. Now, this is one of the things I want to get across because people constantly think one paragraph, okay? They think one paragraph, and that's a symbol for paragraph. One paragraph equals 5 sentences. How many of you guys have heard that? Say yes or no. How many people have heard one paragraph is 5 sentences? You have to have 5 sentences in the paragraph. That's the only way to have a paragraph. Okay? Yeah, it's commonly said. But like I've said in the before, it's really a lot of things that teachers tell you, especially in elementary school, are partial truths. There's no way we can tell you the whole truth because, unfortunately, you just can't handle the full truth right now, and nobody can handle the full truth at any time. We select parts of the truth at any point in time that we're learning because we're focusing in on certain aspects of a concept and not necessarily the concept as a whole. So what does that mean for our paragraphs and our sentences? That means a paragraph, okay, I'm going to cross this out. One paragraph, okay, can equal 1 to like, legal paragraphs have like many sentences, sometimes run-on sentences that look like they're, 6 sentences without any sort of period or anything in it. So I'm just going to say, I'm going to do the cutoff here, but really it's like 1 to 5 sentences, okay? You can use one sentence if it completes everything that you want to say for that paragraph, for your intro paragraph. That's your complete thought. You're done. You can move on, okay? You don't have to write 5 sentences of filler to get an introduction done, okay? So Sophie wants, and I'm sure other people want a reminder of what we're actually writing about. Let's go back and look at that real quick. What are we writing about, and what's the question that we're answering in our 5-paragraph essay? We are answering the question, and we took out the question words here, but what do you do in a typical day of virtual learning? And remember, we broke it down into the 3 components, okay, that are in a typical day of virtual learning, or we have 3 main parts that we must do. That's what we broke our informational essay down into. And we said the first part is class meetings. That's numero uno. And that becomes our body paragraph 1. So really, we're going to be focusing on this when we get into our body paragraph 1. Right now, we're focusing on this answer, or this bubble, where we wrote our main idea or our introduction paragraph, or I should say the start of our introduction paragraph. Because really, again, the mind map, we're not putting everything, right? So let's make sure that we... All right, so hopefully that's a little more helpful, and I'm going to bring this guy down so he's ready when we need it. All right. So is that better, guys? Perfect. Awesome. I love it. I like that. Awesome. So let me get this little. Oh, I don't want to get that bigger. I want to make this bigger. There we go. So here's our start of our intro paragraph for the question that we're answering. So now our job is to make it a paragraph or make it pretty. This right here, this does not look very pretty, obviously. It's in my sloppy handwriting. Mr. K does not have the best handwriting. I write too quick. My mind is not as slow as my hand. My hand's too slow for my mind, and my hand just keeps going and doesn't know what it's doing sometimes. So this is not something we want to turn in, obviously. We're not just going to take this and paste it onto an essay, but we're going to type instead, or if you like writing with a pencil, you can write, because this is a first draft, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to type in that first sentence that we came up with that used the language of the question. And so we can say, and if we look at our Hawk Talk cards, when we're posing an idea, we can start with "we can say," because that's one of our sentence starters, right? We can say that in a typical... What's going on? Guys, mute yourself. Anthony.
Yeah.
Mute. Thank you. Yeah, we can say that's not going to make too much sense because we're talking about I, right? No, we said we. Perfect. Let's just relook. Okay. We're going to say, in a typical day of virtual learning, we have 3 main parts that we must do. Okay. Perfect. Let's do that. So we can say, and I got that straight from the green Hawk Talk card. Let me just, maybe I'll put that here so you guys remember that. So we can say, that in a typical day of virtual learning, we have three main three main parts that we must do.
Do we start writing our paragraph?
If you are like, I want to start right now and do this, you're more than welcome, but I would really highly suggest that you kind of just stay and watch for right now.
Because I'm copying down all the notes, but then I see that I could start writing the paragraph.
Sure. Sophie, I would suggest that, and you can definitely go ahead. I haven't started the lesson on the body yet, but if you want to go and get into that, I would still like you to be in the meeting because I want you to hear at least what's going on. But if you start feeling creative juices flowing, you can start getting them down to paper if you want.
Yeah.
So we can say that in a typical day of virtual learning, we have three parts that we must do. Okay. And we can still continue without, we can leave it like this. Okay. This can be our first paragraph. So this can be our first paragraph, and we can actually already start our next paragraph, and we can go right into the body paragraph. Okay. If this is all you can get to, that is fine. Okay. And I'm not going to go much more into here because if you can't get this introduction sentence down, then there's no way you're doing multiple sentences for your intro paragraph. This here is the most important part of this intro paragraph. It is the answer, okay, to the question that you've already filled out with the mind map. So you're just taking what you've done to the mind map and putting it down into a paragraph form. So what does that mean for the body paragraph? Well, body paragraph 1 body paragraph 1 is about class meetings. Because that is the first part of what we have to do during virtual learning. So let's go ahead and look at the Hawk Talk card that connects with that. So you can actually start now. And this is like the bare basics of a multi-paragraph essay. We're going to learn more on how to make this more complex as we go on through the year, but this is like the bare minimum of what you can do for a multi-paragraph essay and still be considered proficient at writing, okay? As long as you have these components. Where do we write our paragraph? You should be writing this down in your ELA journal. Should be writing this down in your ELA journal. This is a lesson, okay? So you're not turning this paragraph in. You will be writing an essay for the elaborate assignment after you do the explain assignment. This is just a lesson, so you need to be copying down the notes right now. I'm not going to be asking you to turn in this paragraph. So now we got to look. In other words, we're going to just use that again right from the Hawk Talk cards. In other words, well, what do we mean that we have three main parts? In other words, we have to show up to all of our scheduled class meetings. And where did I get this information from? Our mind map, class meetings. In other words, that came from here. This is not spelled correctly. In other words, we have to show up to all of our, this is incorrectly spelled, but scheduled class meetings. And I just added in what we have to do with class meetings because we already identified that that is one of the three main parts that we must do. So again, this is continuing on with our main idea. Okay, and that's the theme of this. We don't switch into something else that wasn't on the mind map. We just put the stuff that was on the mind map in and expand on it. So class meetings turned into we have to show up to all of our class meetings. We can actually continue. And explain. We have to look at our group rotation. I don't like this text box tool. It's not very friendly. I might just start handwriting it, even though my handwriting's sloppy. So in other words, we have to show up to all of our scheduled meetings. We can now expand on this, right? Or we can just go straight over to the fortification that we've already put in here. And we have two examples, okay, that we can use right in that paragraph. And those connect to the class meetings. We already know that because we've already filled out this whole mind map. And it was filled out with the idea in mind that we would be answering, what do you do in a typical day of virtual learning? Okay, so we can now take this fortification and add it into our body paragraph. Notice how clarify and these two fortify connect to the clarify. That's because they are part of this clarification statement. These are examples that help to support our clarification of our idea. So let's take the first one. So then we can put this one right under the clarification. In other words, we have to show up to all our scheduled class meetings. And this should be indented, but because this is continuing on to the paragraph. For example, that's what I used in the fortification bubble. For example, put that up here. For example, I use the Google Meet link on our Google Calendar to get to class meetings every day.
Don't we have to go to our other meeting already?
Who's that?
Ricardo.
Ricardo, if we went to our other meeting, there wouldn't be anybody there. No, you know how sometimes certain parts of the class last longer than what they were supposed to last? I took a good section of this class and I had to explain to people, even though I've touched on this before, I went and explained to people how to get to grades. We're going to get to the 10 a.m. meeting, but it's going to be a little bit late. Don't worry, though. I will tell you when we're going. Okay, so I used the Google Meet link on our calendar to get to class meetings every day. So we used this fortification. Now we got to go up and get the other fortification. Notice we're just taking everything from what? What are we taking everything from? Who can tell me?
You're taking your ideas?
Yeah, but where am I getting these ideas from?
From the mind map.
From the mind map, yes. From the mind map. So it's making it easy. I'm not having to do everything all over again. I'm just writing down and making more beautiful what I've already done in my mind map. So let's go and put this one here, because if I put the keyboard up, I'm not going to be able to see it. And then let's get our Red Hawk Talk card out. So we already used, for example, and so in the next one, we used an expert. The teacher, according to, now I'm an expert because it's my classroom, not necessarily just because I'm an expert in everything. Don't just trust everything a teacher says because they're a teacher, but you can trust them when it comes to the rules of their classroom, right? According to Mr. Kapawala, comma, quotation marks because it's my words, if you do not show up to class meetings, then you will get a call home. I don't know why it auto-corrected it to have a period here. That's irritating. If you do not show up to the class meetings. Oh, I think it's because it didn't get my comma. Then you will get a call home to let, and I'm adding this in, parents know that you did not participate for the day. And see, I added this on as I was writing because as I'm writing it, I'm realizing, well, I'm not just calling home. Mr. K didn't just say he's going to call home and say, hey, how are you doing? Everybody doing good at home? I just wanted to say hi. Mr. K is going to call home to tell parents and guardians that there was no participation from their student that day. And so right here, and I don't know why this is, there we go. This is what it's supposed to look like. We have our indent in our paragraph here. So this is what our, and let me take this actually. So this is what our beginning, ooh, this is not working here, sorry. I'm going to erase the green around here real quick so it doesn't get confusing. And we're going to drop this down. Then I'm going to underline it so you guys know which ones it connects to. So we got our pose. We have our clarification. And we have our 2 fortifications. And right there, just with this little bit, you have now written 2 paragraphs. Okay? One is just a 1-sentence paragraph, but it's all you need for your intro. You don't need to go more than that. Okay? I always post them on YouTube. Always. You don't need to ask them. I always do. They're always on there. That's why I do it on Explain Everything. Yeah, it is hard to copy all down, especially when it's being displayed through Google Meets. It's very hard to see through Google Meets. It's way easier to see on YouTube. And just remember when you're on YouTube, please click 720p. Don't try and watch it in 380p or something like that. Don't do that. Okay, so this part is done, and tomorrow we'll look at body paragraph 2 and how we can make body paragraph 2 and possibly 3 come alive. So we're not too late.